Welcome to FoundHer Rising, the podcast for women founders in wellness coaching and consulting who are ready to build businesses that create freedom, impact, and income. I'm your host, Christine Hakkola, business coach, former psychotherapist, and mentor to women scaling service-based businesses. Today, I'm joined by Rana Pishva, clinical psychologist and founder of Sorted Mind. She supports mental health professionals through consultation, supervision, and workshops, and works with individuals navigating trauma and life transitions. Rana, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, good. I'm excited too. I'm just so impressed by what you built, and I can't wait for you to share it with our listeners. Let's go back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing and what nudged you to create Sorted Mind.
Absolutely. Well, as you said in your intro, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've been in private practice for most of my career. And it is a really fulfilling job to have the privilege to offer people a space to work through the challenges in their life. And so I still do that. I still offer that private practice therapy assessments, and I work with family court. But I was finding that I would having moments where sometimes I would get bored. Sometimes I would feel like I'm getting burnt out and it was getting too much. And I was also feeling that I was accumulating all this insight and knowledge, and I wanted to share it in a way that could be usable. And especially when I was putting together the idea of Sorted Mind, I really wanted to not only share and connect with other individuals who are navigating challenges or supporting people navigating these challenges, but I wanted to cut through the static of the wellness sound bites and the quick fixes and bring back to the surface this idea that this takes work. So just like overcoming a traumatic event takes work, becoming an effective therapist also takes work. And I wanted to go beyond the little sound bites with that.
Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Let's dive into a little deeper to that, because I'm imagining our listeners, some who are also fellow mental health practitioners or other wellness providers or even coaches and consultants who have built or are building a successful one-on-one practice and want to do what you've done, right? They want to diversify, and we'll talk about how you've done that in a little bit. But when you think back to those initial steps, the question I'm hearing folks potentially ask is like, how did you do it though? Like, what were the steps that you took to move beyond one-on-one?
Absolutely. The first part was a lot of half-written Google Docs of what this was going to look like.
Brain
So when I'd get this insight and I'd start, and I was like, this is going to be it. And then life happened. And then, another one. And then another one. So there's all these little ideas of workshops that I would have, of supervision or consultation programs, even taglines, right? That would come up and I would want to have that. And it was really, really disjointed. And a few of them I kept coming back to. A few of them had more and more meat on the bone. And really what happened was I had a couple of meetings with some amazing women where, Annette Cussing and Wendy Cummings, Annette just said, well, Rana, you just have to submit your proposal to people. Because I met with her kind of asking, so Annette Cussing, she's, an expert in adult attachment in Ontario, and she gives workshops and teaches everywhere. And I was sort of talking to her like, how do I do that? And she's like, Rana, just send your proposal. Yeah. And it made me realize how no one's going to knock on your door, at least not initially. Yeah. So it was so almost silly how she said that. I was like, oh, okay. And I sent out a bunch of proposals and folks took up to it and I started giving the workshops. Yes. So I think that part of it is, just do it at some point, put it together and you get it out there. That really helped me.
Yeah. Actually. I really appreciate the clarity and just like the rawness in that response.
Yeah.
I speak with so many service providers who are either told or have gone through the motions of building some really complicated sales funnel, like where they will start is buying an expensive CRM and building an automation and creating a lead magnet and posting on social. And suddenly 6 or 12 months or 2 years have gone by of hiding behind the screen. And it's something I coach people on regularly. And I'm just so, refreshed to hear you got that advice and you didn't do any of those things. Like you went out and literally took your workshop idea and gave it to somebody who might want to host you or collaborate with you.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that like I'm very beta. Like I'm talking about places that I have to go in, like my systems and be more efficient and all of that. But I have a hard time sometimes with change. And Annette and Wendy are both women who are older than me. They have really successful businesses without a, really fancy website. And this sort of idea of show up with what you can offer that is so human to human in many ways is also foreign to us because of all these different fancy things you can do in between.
We think it has to be complicated or difficult or that there's this massive learning curve. And sometimes it's hard to see what's right in front of us of just talk to people. Think about who could benefit from what you have to offer and have a conversation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was such good advice. Yeah.
Clearly. So say a little bit about what you do now. Clearly your business and your vision has changed. It went from one-on-one and now you have multiple services. What are your offerings now? What does your business look like today?
Absolutely. So there's my private practice part that's still ongoing, much more limited than it was. And now there's sort of the public facing and education branch of my work with Sorted Mind. And so my favorite part of it is writing. I love writing about what I notice in wellness trends, what I notice in the use of AI. And so I post that on my Substack and website. And then there's the professional workshops and professional consultation programs that I run. So the workshops have to do often with skills that psychotherapists would want to continue to develop or integrate in their work. So integrating CBT and attachment, integrating journaling in their psychotherapy, or even addressing puzzling moments. And the professional consultation groups is a lot more individual, whether it's in a group or one-on-one. We take apart the challenges that clients are bringing in, that clinicians are facing in sessions. We can even review recordings together, and we strengthen your clinical skills in doing that and really amplify the impact. Yeah. So those are the different aspects.
There's a lot. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
I want to just straight out of the gate name, for everyone listening and really any woman building a service-based business, the benefits of diversifying your offerings, right? And I think we talked about that a little bit before the show one is just alleviating boredom, right? And you mentioned
that's
that
right.
too.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought it because I was like, it's true. You can get bored.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And
absolutely.
The benefit of having multiple services is we relieve the boredom because there's lots of things we can tinker with and play with and grow. And especially in the wellness industry, another benefit I'll name is you get to reach more people. There's only so many folks you can help one-on-one. And it sounds like now you're not only helping a broader population, helping more people with mental health challenges, you've also expanded services to helping and training other therapists who are helping people. So your reach is so much. And one thing that folks often hesitate to name is the financial benefit. One-on-one work has a ceiling, and it's very wise financially, especially when it's in integrity and we're still doing the work where we love and we're trained to do, and we're helping people to also be able to grow financially.
Yeah.
But I want to turn it back to you and actually dive into the shadow side of that. What are some of the maybe unexpected challenges or surprises you've had in diversifying your services?
Well, one of the surprises I would say is the advice that I am not yet fully following, which was to find a niche. Like, Rana, find your thing. Are you going to be the psychotherapist who talks about, the parent and adult-child relationship? Are you going to be the attachment and CBT integration psychologist? Are you going to be, the journaling one? And I have continuously pushed back against that because of what you said at the beginning, because I get bored. Like I'm not going to be able to talk about one thing for the next 10 years. It's just not. And so as I was thinking, how am I going to describe the work that I do? That's how I ended up coming down to describing it in terms of helping people navigate relationship transitions, because that includes becoming a parent, that perinatal period, but also parenting a child across the lifespan, including into adulthood. And it includes the work that I do supporting folks who are working through separation and divorce, who are dating, who are, right? And so all of these are relationship transitions. And this idea of sorting out your closet, not just your actual closet, but your emotional one, is something that I use in therapy of like, we're going to make sense of all of these things that are happening.
Hence your business name, Sorted Mind.
That's right. That's sort of like how it came, right? That's right. That's how it came. It was like we sorted out, and it was an analogy that I used in therapy over and over again. Because when we organize things, when we take the inventory, get rid of what we don't need, when we fix what's broken and we rearrange things, then we have room. We have room for new endeavors. We have room for compassion. And that's what I hope that people can get out of using some of these services. Yeah.
It sounds like you've found a really nice middle way between, you've heard this advice, like you need to niche down,
Yeah.
right? So you've kind of done it. You've found a really creative way to niche where you can say that matter of factly, like this is what I do and who I work with, and then embedded within the niche, it's actually very diverse. It's very creative.
Yeah. Oh, you sneaky, you figured it out, right? And I guess the niche is not the topic. And that's the niche is maybe the way that I do it or the method, right? But the what I'm going to talk about, I mean, humans have so many layers, and I'm so curious that we have to, right? So you're right. Well, then you figured it out. I think it's done. We're good. End of podcast.
No judgment. You are absolutely not doing it wrong. I love it. I do. This gives me an opening. Is I do want to name for those listening, though, is you hear that a lot, right? Like this advice, you have to niche down. And my response to that is, well, is your business working? Is your business working for you? Because if somebody comes to me and says, well, I keep getting told that I need to niche down, and I say, is your business working for you? Do you love your business? Does your business function the way you want it to?
Yeah.
Are you doing enough? Are you happy? Is it sustainable? If the answers to all of that are yes, why do we need to niche down?
Right. Yeah.
We don't. But where niching down, and I think you can see where I'm going with this, is really helpful is when things aren't going the way we want them to. Right? If we're not reaching a broad enough audience, if we're not attracting the right clients, if we're not able to grow, if we hit a ceiling and we're feeling stuck in our business, niching can solve a lot of things. I'd love to hear from you. Where, if any places, have you kind of hit a wall or got stuck that niching down further might have been or might be helpful?
Well, I think early on, I thought that when I was going to diversify, I was going to work more with the public and provide insights and tips to the general public, which, to be honest, I still kind of do on my Instagram because I decide on that platform, I just decided I'm going to have fun with it. But I realized that the way that I like to organize my information is by working with the professionals, or I think as you folks call it, the B2B, right? Like I heard that's the lingo. So making that shift and realizing, and to be honest with you, I was also a little bit discouraged by how at least the market seems saturated when it comes to professionals speaking to the general public. And I'm not saying there's no room for it. Again, I do it on my Instagram, but when it came to something that would pay the bills, I decided, you know what, that professionals is where to go. And so making that pivot, it hurt a little bit because that's not where I thought I was going to be. But you accept and you journal and you move forward, right?
Yeah, it's like
that was a big shift, bigger than I expected it to be. And that also meant me learning about how I'm going to use the different social media platform, right? I wasn't really on social media before. Like everybody else, I had a blog in 2009, but that was out of the way. And then I was pretty off, And then once I decided to get back on and had to get back on for so
Yeah.
long, really having a role or
Mm-hmm.
trying to have a specific role for each space
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
was an important exercise.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of a kicker sometimes when as we grow in our businesses, we get to a certain point, and I believe we all reach this point in one way, shape, or form, that we realize the way that we intuitively want to run our business does not always align with the way that business works. And
Yeah.
that can be a real kick in the gut to a lot of folks. And I want to qualify that with, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to our gut, right?
Yeah.
Following the intuition, listening to the gut, that is incredibly important. And our gut isn't always right when it comes to those bigger business decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the conversation we're having and this idea of the importance of niching at times, it can be something where a lot of folks get caught up, this fear that I don't want to do one thing, I'm going to get bored, I don't want to pigeonhole myself and not reach other people, you know. And a piece of advice that I've offered that I think has landed as helpful, and I'll just use this opportunity to share it here, is niching in the way you market doesn't mean that's all you have to do. You can do whatever you want behind the scenes, but when you market to more than one niche, it creates confusion.
Yeah.
And it makes it less likely that you're going to achieve your business goals. So the idea is marketing successfully to one niche at a time. Not to say that you can't do other things, and not to say that you can't change your niche in the future. It's just the way that we go about it, if we really want to be successful, sometimes has to look a little different than we'd like it to.
Yeah, absolutely, Christian. It's interesting because I can definitely hear the psychotherapist in you, right? I can totally hear it, because when you're talking about your gut's really important, but your gut can be wrong. I'm like, yes. And then you're talking about how, you know, you have these expectations of how your business is going to be, and it's going to be different. I mean, that's life, that's relationships, right? We think that a romantic relationship is going to be one way, and it ends up being different. It doesn't make it wrong. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. You have to adapt, and you have to choose where you can adapt and where you choose not to. And I think what you just talked about, it to me sounds so much like values in our everyday life, or in our wellness journey or whatnot, where you're going to have all these values, you're going to have all these things that are important to you, and sometimes you're going to prioritize one over the other, right? Right now, I'm going to spend some time talking about self-focused wellness trends because, you know what, I just read a really cool article and I want to do that, or I have a workshop coming. And then, you know, a couple of months later, while I'm preparing for another workshop or another program, I shift a little bit my messages. One goes to the back burner and the other one is forward. And I think that it can be overwhelming to think about juggling all these balls, but it does make sense over time. You just need to let it settle and recognize that that's what you're doing. You're prioritizing, putting something in the back for another. At least I think that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you've added on a really important piece, and you know, what this brings up for me is I often meet practitioners and business owners that have gotten this belief in their mind, you know, most likely because of the society that we are ingrained in, that to build a successful business, it's got to feel good, right? That if something doesn't feel good, it's off, or it's misaligned, or it's wrong. And I think it's so important to name that is not always true. Right? My experience in building a business that I absolutely love and am passionate about and feel that I have found my calling feels incredibly uncomfortable and difficult at times. And that is and I imagine that you too have come across points and will again, right, where things don't always feel good and they don't always feel comfortable. And it doesn't mean that it isn't aligned and that it isn't right.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have these lows, whether it's sort of sometimes, you know, not getting the response you hoped, or, you know, I talk about social media sometimes, like, as you plan the biggest, most intricate party and nobody shows up, right? Like, and or you get feedback and it's like, oh, I didn't really like your style, and kind of accepting that you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to appeal to everyone. And that, whether it, because it's yours and it's your little baby, then it feels really personal. And when it's your name and your face on it, you know what, it kind of is. So, okay, accepting that accepting that feedback, taking in and learning from that as much as you can, accepting that there's going to be lulls, like that something that you really want to work isn't going to, maybe like there's some hurt in that, and it takes time.
And it's hard to reconcile that that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the business world,
Absolutely.
I so often hear, that we need to do things 100, 500, 1,000 times to be successful. We have to be willing to fail. And, I wish I had some sort of tally, or maybe I don't, of
Yeah,
how many times I've failed at something compared to how many times something has worked. And the times that it's worked is minuscule in
I
comparison.
know.
And I'm
Yeah,
at
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
point where I just embrace that that's the way things go. And I
Yeah.
think that resilience, that understanding, that knowing we're gonna put ourselves out there and things will fail and it will feel uncomfortable and difficult. And
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes, and it's okay. And we're actually
Hmm.
doing things
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I think I think it's not helpful to say, "Oh, nothing is a failure, everything is a learning experience." You know what? Sometimes you're going to do something and it's going to flop. And looking back, you would have said, "You know what? This person and this person told me it wasn't a good idea. I went ahead anyway, and I did." Like sometimes, you know what? You make mistakes.
That's me. I got to do things the hard way, I tell
That's
you.
right, right. At other times, though, there is a benefit in starting and pausing and going a different direction and coming back. Like I think about all these half-started Google documents
Yes.
and how so many of them, the majority, are probably still somewhere,
Mhm.
but they still helped me think. They taught
Yeah.
me, oh, actually, this is something I'm not interested in. I don't actually want to
Mhm.
go and read up on this anymore, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes and again, we turn this back to psychotherapy, the change feels negligible or feels so small, but if you really look carefully, you're like, no, hold on a minute, these are meaningful actions that contributed to the bigger picture. So yes, there's failure, and there's also little bits of progress.
Yeah. And, I'll piggyback off of that is one of the ways I'll look at it is like, and I don't have judgment around failure. It's okay to fail. I fail
Yeah.
all the time. And what it teaches me is that doesn't work. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that again,
Yeah.
right? That is the first and last time I'm going to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And to your Google Docs, those are just seeds and they're not all going to grow.
That's
But if
right.
you didn't ever do them in the first place, nothing would grow.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So turning this back to, speaking of seeds, that
Yeah.
they planted in our planting, tell me and tell our listeners, what is your vision in the next few years? Where do you see Sorted Mind going, and what is it that you want to build into the future?
Absolutely. What I want to work on is I want to continue writing as much as I can. I really love the medium of it. I really love the exercise of it. And so I hope to be drawing more people to the writing and writing about it in ways that people will relate to. And if take away a little bit of information that's going to make a minute of their day or tomorrow a little bit simpler or clearer. That to me is really, I would love that. But also on the more practical end of things is I'm working on a couple of projects, more workshops, but a more structured and bigger consultation group, which is more going to look like a training in terms of integrating CBT and attachment-based interventions. So I'm really excited about that curriculum that I'm putting together. And one of my interests is also the use of AI by mental health professionals. And of course, we know it's showing up in therapy. We know that it's unfortunately harmful in some of the ways that it's being used, but it's not going anywhere. And so I'm working on a tool for professionals to use AI as a tool in an ethical way, not as therapy, but as a supportive role in their work. And so being able to make it useful, make it ethical, is something I'm working on right now. So those are the couple of little projects to stay tuned.
Writing, training, ethical use of AI in therapy. I
Yes.
love all of these.
Yeah, right, right.
I feel like you need to duplicate yourself.
Yeah, I would love that.
Be
I
like
would
Rana
love that.
Pishva.
Why is AI not doing that yet? Like, right?
That's a little scary. We won't go down that
Yeah,
route.
I know, you're right. Yeah, let's take that back.
So
Yeah.
what do you foresee as you build these and start to bring some of these ideas into the world? What do you see just from the business perspective, like being some of the challenges that you'll inevitably face?
One of the things that I'm learning very much, especially in the last few weeks, as things have ramped up with some workshops, is that the systems that I'm using, I think I've got this really good process, right? From, I don't know, ad to registration to, right? And then I'm like, no, wait a minute, it's getting lost. And like I thought I had it figured out, and going back and how much time it can take to tweak and adjust your processes, being, having compassion for myself that I'm learning this. But I think moving forward, as things get bigger, being ready to not only invest more in these systems, but tweak them even further so that I'm doing less of that sort of admin work sometimes that, quite frankly, like, I'm just not good at.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that I'm going to have to adjust.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's such a
I know you do
practical
that.
example. And thank
You
you.
can make an appointment.
And, I just know that everybody listening has something like that in their
Yeah.
business that is taking up time that maybe they don't like to do, or they don't mind it, but they're not super skilled at it. Like somebody else is
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
zone of genius, so to speak.
That's right.
And the biggest resistance that I see folks have is in delegating that out.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Right? And the fear is often, and I'm curious if this resonates with you, is the fear is, oh, like I don't want to pay for that because I can do it myself. And what I'll say to folks around that is consider what your time is worth.
Yeah.
Right? How much you're earning when you're doing one-on-one therapy, when you're running a workshop, when you're leading a training, right? What is your time actually worth? We could break that down and do the math on it. And 9 times out of 10, when we compare what a business owner's time is worth to the amount of time you are spending setting up a marketing funnel, building an automation, writing an email sequence, whatever
God,
it
the
is that
email
you can pay
sequences. Oh.
somebody far less, a tenth, a 20th of your hourly rate to do. Somebody who is skilled and grateful to have that job, who can buy you back whatever it is, 5 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours a week that you're doing that thing. Yes, it's an investment up front. And yes, it's a risk sometimes to pay the money to do the thing. But I can almost guarantee you, right, that in 3 to 6 months, that investment will pay for itself in the time and peace of mind it has bought you back to go do the things that actually grow your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that
It's funny because personally, I am perfectly fine stimulating the economy and paying someone to do something I can't do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to change my own tires, and I buy mittens, I don't knit them. Like, I just sort of like, I am okay with that.
Yes.
The part of delegating that's harder for me, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that Sorted Mind is still young and still crystallizing a bit, is making sure that I see that final product, that it sounds like me, not like somebody else.
Yes.
And I think that when you do work with someone that you trust, who has gotten to know you, and, I feel that way with the website and things like that, then I feel good about it. Yeah. But it takes time, I think, to delegate your project a little bit from that creative side, I guess. Is that the other side?
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. And my response to that, not to minimize it at all,
No,
because it's valid and it's real, is it's a lot easier to learn the skill of hiring good people and how to manage and delegate effectively than it is to learn every single skill required to grow and scale your business.
Yeah. And you have to sort of trust that the person who is going to build your social media post, or who's going to work on writing those email sequences, they have also the skill to get to know you in the right way. Yeah. And so that they can actually implement the vision that you have. Right. Yeah. And I think that is giving them the time to do that.
And I will say, like, the shift that business owners inevitably experience as they go down this road is realizing that it's less about just trusting the process, right, which definitely has a time and place, and more about actually realizing that there is a skill set to finding and hiring the right person. And that this is actually not about giving up control. It's about creating systems and process that allow us to delegate confidently and responsibly so that all the things we're afraid of, like, don't actually happen. And part of that shift is realizing that delegating, that hiring and outsourcing is not an all or none. Right? We don't have to just completely release it.
Yeah, that's right. And then hope the post looks good or the email. Yeah, absolutely.
Like we actually get to have oversight around how that process is laid out, when we get to have our eyes on it, what we say yes to, what we say no to, that all of that can be built in, and that those skills can be learned by you, by me, by any entrepreneur. And it is so much easier to do that than to learn how to run a piece of software.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God. Yes. Or understand there is.
Oh my goodness.
It is it is a world out there.
It sure is. Rana, I feel like there's a gajillion more topics we could dive into.
It's lovely. Yeah.
But we are at the end, and I am certain that there are people listening to this who want to know where to find you, how to learn more, how to connect with you. Can you share with us where is the best place for people to find you?
Everything can be found on my website, so sorted-mind.com. On LinkedIn is where you're going to find the most information about my workshops and consultation programs. Substack is where I'm writing to Dr. Rana's Substack. And on Instagram, where I have a little bit more fun with mental health topics, is at drrana.sortedmind. So come and find me, write to me. I'm happy to connect.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing your energy, your wisdom and insight, and just your realness to the show. I so appreciate it. And thank you to the listener for tuning in to FoundHer Rising. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, share it with another founder, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or learn more at hakkolahorizons.com. Until next time, keep rising and keep building the business that gives you freedom to live, lead, and create on your terms.